Good evening, everyone, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Wareham Finance Committee to order. It is Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, 6:30 p.m., and we're in room 27 of Wareham Town Hall and also on Zoom. And I would like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Yep, Matt Rose,
Present.
Jody Smith, we know is not here, Gerald Stefanski,
Here.
Dominic Camerano,
Present.
Heidi Churchill. Here. Julie Moran, myself, and Norma Scoggin, Chair.
I'm here. All right, thank you. All right, do we have Derek yet? I guess we don't, actually. I believe we're going to be joined for item A by Derek Sullivan, our town administrator, but it looks like he is not signed in quite yet. So let's move on to item B, which is the presentation and discussion of Fall Town Meeting Article 26, construction cost for WPCF projects. And we have here Bernie Pigeon, Jim Gibberti, and Sarah Greenberg. Did I get that right? Yes. Sarah, would you mind just maybe coming up to the table while we do this? We would love to hear what you have to say about Article 26. And if you need a minute to get the technology done, that's fine.
First of all, Madam Chairman, thank you very much for having us on your agenda this evening for Article 26 for the Sewer Commission presentation, and regarding the headworks and clarifiers. These are two very important items in the process of treating all the effluent which we gather at the plant. These are steps 1 and 2 in the process. So in order for us to even go forward after that, these two must be operating properly, or efficiently. And our consultants, GHD, have advised us, and we've rated these two items as critical to the whole process. In fact, we have rated them as 1 and 2. There are other problems with the plant that we'll get to as we go on in the process. However, these two, as I say, they are the steps 1 and 2. If they don't accomplish their task, the rest of the process is faulty and has more difficulty, takes longer to process, and we are geared to taking care of everything in probably a 24 to 48 hour period. So, I mean, I don't hold me to that, but it's about the time frame to get everything done for a day process. So, Sarah, are you ready?
Yes, I believe it's being sent to the Finance Committee now, and I will start off as an intro and discuss a bit until we can get it loaded on the screen here. Thank you. We're here this evening to.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. So we each have a hard copy, so we don't, it's not for us really.
Yes.
So if you could just come back
Okay.
on the screen so everyone can see you.
Yeah,
And
not a problem.
it looks like we may be about to get there. We'll see. But please
Yeah,
proceed.
Not a problem, thank you. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. We're here to talk again about Article 26 for Fall Town Meeting, which is the headworks and clarifier upgrade, specifically for approving the borrowing of the construction funds for this project. That was last Fall Town Meeting, the design was approved, so this project is well into design, and so if we go to the next slide though, before we get into the meat of the project, I just would like to orient everybody to the facility. So you can see hopefully on your screen the treatment facility. So this is showing you the whole treatment process from beginning to end at the Wareham facility. And just to orient everybody, on the far right hand side you'll see a road, and that's Tony's Lane, and on the left hand side is the river. So oh, are we not sharing? Nope. Sorry.
Hold on one second, I'm just trying to get
Not a problem.
it's the wrong format.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about the general treatment process, but when we get this up and loaded, we can come back to the overall process for the treatment. But you know, we've come before the Finance Committee last September, I believe, and this presentation has been given a few times to various boards and at town hall, at town meeting. But hopefully this one is a little bit more updated to answer some really good questions and comments and discussion that's come up at previous meetings. And we're now at a place where we want to walk through the reasonings why it's so pertinent that this project is so important. And so we have talked a lot about how at the facility most of the equipment is at or exceeding its 20-year life expectancy. We save 20 years life expectancy for equipment. Equipment can of course last longer than 20 years. However, of course then that just could add maintenance to keep it going or repairs, et cetera. As we have, of course, all know from boilers at home, et cetera, they can last longer, but oftentimes there's added costs as you keep them going. And so even though most of the equipment at the facility is at its life expectancy, the two, as far back as 2015 in the capital improvements plan that was done for the wastewater facility as well as the supporting collection system, that was the first time that, or the beginnings of documenting, if you will, the needs of the wastewater system. And so the needs that came, and as recently as the plan evaluation 2021, the two needs that rose to the top are the headworks and clarifiers as being the next top priorities to be rehabilitated and upgraded at the facility. So that brings me back, thank you for loading that. That brings me back to the site plan to give a quick intro to the project, but to orient you as where's the headworks and the clarifiers within the treatment process. So you can see from 1 to 6 on the screen. This is the treatment process at the wastewater facility here in Wareham. And at 1 is our headworks. This is the first process that all the wastewater from the collection system sees. From flushing toilets, showerings, et cetera, everything that goes into the collection system and gets pumped to the treatment facility comes here to headworks, and that's where we have our screen. It's screening out large objects, kids' toys, kitty litter, wipes that are flushed down the toilets, et cetera. It's also where grit and sand is removed, so any grit and sand type particles that are coming in through the wastewater into the facility, that gets pulled out at this location as well. And headworks is also where the septic receiving facility is, so any septic haulers that pump septic tanks in Wareham or surrounding areas, they can come to the treatment plant here, and for a fee, they discharge their septic and the facility treats it. So that's a revenue stream that the facility quite enjoys. And then the next stage of process that the wastewater goes through is over to area 2. That's our aeration basins. That's the meat of the wastewater treatment process, where the microbes and the bugs are treating the wastewater, so that by the time they come to area 3, those circular secondary clarifiers, those microbes and bugs that have been treating the wastewater, they now settle to the bottom of these circular tanks, and what is left up top is clear or clarified water. And that's what continues on to the next stages of treatment, which at the facility is area 4, denitrification filters. So those are just sand filters where that water, that clarified water that is at the top of the clarifiers continues through the sand filters, and it just flows through sand. And that's where we get our last bit of nitrogen removal. And in order for the facility to meet its permit. The facility has a permit for a bunch of nutrient parameters that it has to meet so that the wastewater that's treated is safe to put back into the ecosystem. And, but of course not before it goes to area 5, which is our ultraviolet disinfection. And that's where the wastewater, now that nutrients have been brought down to appropriate levels, is also disinfected, and now it's safe to be put back into the environment, discharged to outfall in area 6 at the Agawam River for Wareham. And so if you go to the next slide, you can see that this project is concerning headworks and the clarifiers upgrade, which are areas 1 and 3. And as I mentioned, while much of the facility has a lot of equipment that's at its life expectancy, the last time that this facility was majorly upgraded was construction finished in about 2005. These 2 areas here are the 2 that have been identified as the most urgent needs at the facility. Next slide, please. So the headworks is the first component of this project, and as I mentioned, it's the first treatment process that the wastewater sees when it comes to the facility. It's where it gets the most abuse, because it's where all of the wipes and large objects are screened out The air, due to the nature of wastewater, is highly corrosive. So between that and the fact that the equipment is old, there's corrosion and things are starting to fail at the headworks. You can see an image here of the influence screen and the grit dumpsters. And so the combination is of the processes being at the end of its life expectancy, and that corrosion is causing these systems to fail. Next slide. So they're just not removing all the wipes and objects it should. It's no longer removing grit and sand, and all of that is allowed to go to the next stage of treatment. I also mentioned that at Headworks is where septic receiving is, and so that's a source of revenue for this facility, where septic haulers that are pumping it from, from septic homes around the town or surrounding areas, they can come here, discharge, pay a fee, and the facility treats it. Unfortunately, in the last 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, the septic receiving facility has had to be shut down because, again, the Headworks, all the equipment in there has really come to a point of failing and not functioning as it should, and they have had to shut down septic and unable to take it in. So there's a loss of that revenue stream coming in. Next slide. And of course, since the equipment, this Headworks equipment, isn't doing its screening as it should or removing grit as it should, it just adds additional maintenance costs further down to the rest of the treatment process, causing you to have grit and wipes and rags settle in other locations, other tanks, be having to be pulled out of pumps, and all of this is maintenance that wouldn't need to be done as frequently if the upstream equipment, if the Headworks equipment were working as it should, and that can add costs. Next slide, please. And so the next portion of this project is the clarifier upgrade. So the secondary clarifiers are critical to meeting permits. So I talked about the facility, of course, has a discharge permit, and those are parameters that they have to meet in order to allow the treated wastewater to be discharged back into the environment so that it's safe for the environment. And the existing clarifiers, they don't meet current design standards. They're more shallow than they need to be to efficiently do their job of, again, as I mentioned, those microbes that are treating the wastewater, they now here in these tanks have an opportunity to settle down to the bottom so that the clarified liquid up top is what's continuing on to the rest of the treatment process. And of course, in addition, a lot of the equipment for the clarifiers is 40 years old or double its life expectancy. So a combination of it not being designed appropriately and or not meeting current design standards rather, and the equipment failing means that it's no longer doing that settling job it should. Next slide, please. You can see here that on the left is an image of what a working clarifier would look like. Again, as I described, it's sort of those microbes and bugs falling to the bottom, leaving the clear liquid on top to continue on. But on the right-hand side, you can see here, this is an image at the wastewater facility when they had clarifier mechanisms fully break down. You can see that there's sort of scum and floatables on top that shouldn't be, that should either be skimmed off the top or should have settled and fallen to the bottom. So imagine, those particles continuing on to the next stage of treatment. They can reduce the efficiency of the next stage of treatment or actually shut down the next stages of treatment. As I mentioned, with sand filters, as we can all imagine, if we dump that kind of particles into sand at the beach, it wouldn't, it'd stay on top, right? So that's shutting down that next stage of process. So the inefficiency and the broken nature and the failing nature of some of this equipment here is causing impacts to the rest of to the treatment plan. Next slide. And of course, we've talked here about meeting permit and the criticality of a facility meeting permit, and of course, the criticality of it is to prevent environmental contamination. Those parameters in the facility's permit, how much nitrogen it can have in the wastewater, bacterial limits. That's to protect the environment, but also of course to protect beaches, keep them open for swimming, recreation, and continue to do shellfishing, cohogging, all that. And of course, if a facility doesn't meet permit consistently, the federal government can get involved and impose regulatory fines or issue a consent order, which would require the town and the facility to remediate the environmental issues and then fix the facility and the system. Next slide. And so while this doesn't happen a lot, just to give you an example, this is an article as recent as 2021. The city of Quincy had incidences where untreated sanitary sewage was discharged into the environment, and so the Environmental Protection Agency entered into a consent decree with the city of Quincy, and that was a legal document requiring them to clean up the environmental contamination, but also to fix the whole system. And you can see in the title here, the cost of the remedial measures is expected to be in excess of $100 million. So we just like to show that it is critical to meet the facilities permit. That's a very important piece. And next, thank you. And so we aren't coming here at the end of the 20 years to say, all right, let's work on the next upgrading the process and fixing the equipment. This work has been needed for a while, established as far back as I mentioned earlier, the 2015 capital improvement plan that assessed the needs of the wastewater system facility as well as the supporting collection system. And then in more detail, the 2021 facility evaluation, the plan evaluation, looked at age of all the equipment at the facility, the condition it was in, how likely was it to fail, and if it was to fail, how critical is that? And that analysis, that creates a priority list to help the facility and the town determine, what do we need to focus on first? And at the top of that list, the headworks and the clarifiers are the next priority project. So this work has been established as needed coming up. It's just we're at a stage where the work is now urgent. Next slide. And another really good question and discussion that's come up over the months of talking about this project is, okay, so we're gonna fix the clarifier, have the new clarifiers, we're going to fix the headworks equipment. Is this a Band-Aid? Because the town is in the midst of also a comprehensive wastewater management plan update. And so what is that planning program going to show? Is it going to cause us to go in a different direction? And the answer is that this is not a Band-Aid. In fact, this project fits within the overall planning projects. They're being done in tandem to ensure that this project is not only fixing and repairing what needs to be repaired and has been become a really urgent matter at the facility, but also to create that foundation and a step for allowing the facility to also then expand in the future to next stages. And you can see here, this is a great image to illustrate sort of the phased future expansion in color. So the highlighted components are the headworks and clarifier upgrade projects, the portions of the facility that are being upgraded. And you can see in green and blue, facility expansion. So this is expanding from our current 1.56, which Mr. Pigeon has sitting here, of our wastewater discharge of what the plant can release back into the river, and going on to increasing that to 2 million gallons per day or 3 million gallons per day. So that image was just a good way to show how an expansion, a flow, which could accommodate not only sewering for environmental needs and starting to address environmental needs in the town, but also allow for economic growth and be able to connect new commercial businesses and residents that want additional buildings or new houses. That it shows how that expansion and of that treatment can be accommodated at the site. And next slide. So of course with that comes additional cost, and that's another big discussion topic of, we have this project, and how does that fit into the long-term plan of additional projects or phases, and costs that might be coming up. So this slide shows in phases where we sit within an expansion, if you will, of the site that I showed on the previous slide. So this project, of course, is phase 2. And while it's not expanding the capacity, the facility can still only discharge 1.5 MGD or 1 million gallons per day. And it's to address the age-related needs, but it does create the foundation for future facility expansion. Without fixing and repairing, what is there, we cannot build on it to expand for the future. And that creates that foundation to allow us to go into, for example, phase 2A, to actually allow for that facility expansion to 2 million gallons. And now that's an additional almost 500,000 gallons of flow that can now be expanded for future growth. And then getting up to 3 million gallons. And so you can also see some projected estimated costs here. And so in some, to get to 3 million gallons, that the facility can accommodate that expansion, and the cost of that, as you can see from this slide, sum to upwards of 140 million, next slide. But and of course, in addition to the costs of expanding the facility, are the components of what needs to be done for the collection system to support that. So whether it's, again, improving and rehabilitating or replacing and upgrading existing collection system, pump station, and doing system upgrades, but also expanding, bringing in new sewer areas to meet environmental needs, but then also to meet the planning needs and the growth needs and the economic needs of the town. Again, all of this in conjunction and in tandem with the comprehensive wastewater management plan. So some of these slides actually come from the planning presentations that have been given to some of the departments over the last few months. Next slide. So, but specifically for this Article 26 that we're here tonight for is, again, the headworks and clarifier upgrade and approving the construction funds for this project. So this project specifically, while it does, it is the cost of replacement of equipment that has exceeded its life expectancy. But again, this design does incorporate the future needs of the towns, allowing this to not just be a replacement, but also allowing it to be a good foundation so that we can then expand upon it in the future and allow more flow to come in. So of course, as the article says, it's up to $36 million, $36 million of anticipated costs being paid for through the state fund program. It's called the State Revolving Fund. It's a loan program. And the reason that the town is pursuing this as a funding mechanism for this project is because it has a large amount of principal forgiveness or grant funding. So right off the top, the town of Wareham will be getting a minimum of 10% principal forgiveness on the loan amount. So right off the top of whatever the up to 36 million, 10% comes off. And this year, specifically, additional monies have come into this state program through the infrastructure bill that was approved in the last 2 years. So it will be greater than that. The state has not assigned the amount, and that comes through the application process. And then after that 10+% is forgiven or grant monies back, 17% of the remaining is a contribution by Bourne through the intermunicipal agreement. And there was a joint meeting between the sewer commission of both towns within the last 2 weeks. And the remaining balance after that is anticipated to be funded through the sewer budget, and the sewer commission and the town have worked to look at the numbers and determine that it's going to be approximately in the $46 per EDU per year but at the time at which this loan needs to be repaid, which isn't until 2027. Next slide. And so where we are now is the project has been approved for design. It's in the midst of design, and the funding application to get this loan will be submitted as well this October. And this project is listed on the state's list of approved projects, and it is listed we've mentioned before in previous presentations. It was listed near the bottom of the list. There was a bunch of towns and projects that were applied for this funding, and this project made the cut, which is wonderful. But of course, there are other communities that had applied for this funding. So in order to be considered for this funding and all of the principal forgiveness and additional principal forgiveness through the infrastructure bill, we have to stay within the state's schedule, which means that the approving of borrowing of funds for the construction of this project has to happen at fall town meeting. Otherwise, the state, they have, as I mentioned, other communities that they will likely give those loans to. And so that's it. Last slide is just a summary slide of to open it up to questions on the Article 26 or general questions about the project. Thank you.
Jerry.
Bernie,
Yeah.
the joint meeting with your board, what did your 17% partners think of this?
They had a different opinion perhaps of whether or not it qualifies, but the conversation, I didn't allow it to go into detail. That wasn't the purpose of the meeting.
Yeah.
But they identified their concern of how well they qualify for it. The language is in the contract, though, specifically from our point of view, that through maintenance or improvements, that they will reimburse us 17.9% of the balance after we remove the application for grant funding and all.
So were they supportive then? I mean, there's no problems, is there? You
We
foresee
didn't get
with
in that part of the discussion. This was the first time in years that the two committees have been together. And so we kind of guided through a meet and greet. Obviously, the subject matter came up, but we didn't enter into a discussion or debate regarding it. That comes later. Dominic, you had your own?
I did. A couple questions. Feeding off of what Jerry said. Can Bourne refuse to pay?
That's a legal issue, but it's per the contract, per the language, we interpret it one way. They, of course, will have perhaps a different interpretation. I don't believe so, but I'm not the legal entity that would make that decision. That would be for the town administrator and the attorney.
Okay, so, this question for the young lady there. You said that we could expand, but we can only release so much into Agawam, correct? So there's no
Yes.
expansion available to us, not at this site. Am I right?
There is expansion of the treatment, but we need to also then, to your point, that's a great point, look for areas to then recharge, as we call it, or discharge the additional flow. So if I may, for example, currently we have 1.56 that can go into the river, and so the options are increasing that permit to allow 2 million gallons to go into the river, or looking for additional sites. It's very common in many areas in this region for recharge beds or sand beds as groundwater recharge, and so the town is currently looking at various sites. Again, all town-owned properties that are sites that would be feasible from allowing flow to go through, and that they're suitable for that. And so that's also being pursued in tandem, and that's under the comprehensive wastewater plan project as well.
If I
Yes,
add,
please.
Dominic, we've reintroduced the possibility of going to the canal. I've met with those principals, and as Sarah has indicated, there's other alternatives, methods of disposing it, and we're exploring those also. This repair adds probably about 30% of the ability to process what we currently have, more efficient. But if we want something else, we'll just build it, because we have plenty of real estate down there, so we can add to the process without any problems.
So one more question. If this water is treated properly and so clean, why is there restrictions on going into the river?
It does have, if I may, a minimal amount of nutrients still in it.
And that's why they
And
redo,
from
that's
the
why the flow is
surrounding,
restricted?
yeah, from the surrounding communities, neighborhoods and all, there's nutrients going into the river before it gets to our outfall. And so what is left, adding ours into it, plus what is already there, it reaches a certain level. You wanna say something, Jim?
I was just gonna say, there's also a flushing component. The Agawam River, where it's discharged to, doesn't have the flushing ability to handle really anything more.
Is that because the water isn't clean enough?
No, it's
No,
not, has
it has
nothing to do with the
that.
water,
That's
it
what I
has
want
to
to
do with the
know.
flow,
Volume.
the volume flow.
Yeah, got it.
And how
of
quickly
the
it's being
river
able to.
itself.
This is perfectly fine. I mean, as Tara was going through, I thought I would jump in perhaps and say, the Ultraviolet building, we're gonna name that the Tom Worthen building.
And for people who don't know, or weren't there at the time, we did a little tour of the facility, I can't remember, a year and a half ago or
Yeah.
something. And at the end,
Tom
Tom
drank it, yeah, I
drank the
saw
Yeah,
water
that.
that
took
was
a
coming
dip
out, and he
of
didn't
water.
die.
Yes, yes.
He's not on the committee anymore, but he didn't.
Nothing to do with it.
I don't think that has anything to do with it, no.
Have,
But he glows at night.
I have not verified that.
at the
I
time.
do have one question, and this is probably more as a citizen than a finance committee member. I kayak on that river quite a bit, and the closer I go down the Agawam, the oilier it seems to get, the smellier it seems to get. It's gotta be from the treatment plant,
No.
no?
No.
No. As we said, Tom
Because-
Worthen scoops it right up, it's perfectly fine. It's a drink.
Runoff?
It's not something you'd want to drink, I say, but knowing its
Right.
source.
Is it
But
run-
it is potable water.
Is that runoff that's probably on the top of the?
So I don't know what scent you're referring to, but oftentimes, tidally influenced areas where, can have a scent that a lot of people thinks it has that sulfur smell
it's
that is
not
similar
the-
to wastewater. There are often times where people are, in certain towns, like, oh gosh, the wastewater plant smells, but there's no wastewater plant. It's actually just the tides moving in and out of the coastal area. So, and that area, so there could be that impact as well.
Okay.
Matt, do you have any questions?
So we're talking about doing the Headworks building. We're not replacing the building, we're gonna redo the existing building, correct?
Yes, I believe so. I don't
Yes,
think the
correct,
plans
yes.
are in
I'm
it.
confused
I haven't
on
seen the
that.
plans.
As you were talking about redundancy last time, that we were gonna have a redundant resource with these upgrades. But we're not replacing anything, we're not replacing it, we're just repairing the existing. Correct?
No.
We're replacing the whole
You're not
process.
Not replacing the building
Not
itself,
replacing the building,
right?
it's gonna be the same building, we're not gonna have a redundant, we're not gonna have two Headworks buildings.
Yeah.
No.
Correct, that's
Correct.
correct,
The
yeah.
discussion, as I might just kick in, the discussion that you're bringing up is the one that we had back a year and a half ago, where the idea was to put a separate new facility in another location and abandon the existing one, repair it as time went on. Since then, it's become a more practical, viable
It was here during before the Springtown
Yeah.
meeting.
Yep.
It was commented that we were gonna have a redundant resource and we were having,
Right.
they were putting a whole new building. But that's not that now. The 3 clarifier tanks, right? Are we repairing one or are we repairing all 3?
All three, so all three, as I mentioned, are not, to current design standards, they're too shallow. So 2 new ones will be built with the proper depth. They're also larger in size as well, this direction, and can replace the flow as well as handle peak flows coming through, which the current ones can't handle. But we will not be tearing out those existing tanks. We are trying to repurpose them actually for additional storage so that nothing is being wasted.
So that's right, I think,
Okay.
my understanding was that was the actual redundancy that was gonna be provided, is that we'd have the extra
That was through the
clarifier.
discussion, yes.
Okay.
Yep, okay, no, that clears all that up.
Good, yes.
Julie,
Question?
you go first.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I know that when we toured the plant, Guy, our former director, had mentioned that routinely, almost chronically, they would have a call in the middle of the night that system wasn't working, had to send someone out, obviously cost to the town, an employee. Will this replacement reduce, if not eliminate, those issues, or is this just a bigger systemic issue?
It'll reduce the service that's necessary for these particular units. The system itself will always constantly need the maintenance because of its age alone.
Just because of its age,
Yes.
okay. So
But
this
as,
is
of course, this
really-
is a brand-new facility.
So that will
the-
help a bit, but will
Yeah.
not.
Yes, it'll
That's
likely the
expensive
needs for the servicing,
over
yes.
time.
And again, everything will also be, the new equipment in the Headworks building that's being rehabilitated will all be able to be sort of connected into what we can call a software system that kind of helps run the plant so that it works in tandem with the operators. So while, to Bernie's point, they'll still need to come out if they're getting called from, because something else in the system isn't working that isn't part of this project. But having these rehabilitated alleviates that operator having to focus on this as well as much. Right now, they can refocus their efforts on the rest of the plant.
To
a little bit
interject
more.
further,
Yeah.
right now, the function of these 2 units are not as efficient as they should be, and as a result,
they're causing problems further down the stream. So that increases the maintenance needed for the other units.
So some of this $36 million would be offset by some maintenance savings and so forth, just reducing
That was
the
my next
inefficiencies
question,
and extra capacity that we could have because we're more efficient. That sort of thing.
The Headworks building, that's the one where the septic sewage was delivered to, and it's been offline
Right,
because of the
so
problems.
get that
That will
revenue
be
back.
back online, and when it was operating, we were taking in around 600,000 a year.
Significant.
Other question is, you know, I read that report, two-year-old report, and one of the things I think that your group reported, that we were somewhat consistently exceeding the levels on the discharge permit, the DEP levels. Will this help us? Because there's a concern, DEP's watching, notice of violation. Will this help at all with that?
Yes, it will. If I'm understanding correctly, you're referring to if there's been facility, like the facility permit, the parameters not always being met is what you're
Correct.
indicating. Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, the secondary clarifiers are very critical to meeting permit. And so the fact that they are too shallow to always efficiently do their job, as well as, you know, equipment failing on top of that and then breaking, this will, having properly designed clarifiers, allowing it to do its job, will help alleviate some of that you're seeing. Yes, exactly.
And last question, the infrastructure bill, some of which has now flowed into
Yeah.
the state, and that's really, we're getting the benefit of that. So my question is that, my assumption is that somewhat unique, that kind of money coming in to the system. So have we frankly missed an opportunity if we might have had further along in our design and the requirement and the changes that we wanna make to be able to have more of that money available to the town? I mean, I know you're speculating, but.
In terms of like further along in the planning project, for
Correct.
example, it's tough to say because, you know, that's just more money that you're then approaching the state with that you want funding for. And so, and that can get into a complex discussion of, do you want to break your project into pieces, and then maybe not all of it would make it anyways because there are so many requests for funding on this unique, as you mentioned, year. And so it's, you know, that it wouldn't necessarily mean that we would have gotten more money anyways. That's as you mentioned, you never know, it's speculation.
Would have been nice to try.
But we haven't lost it for this round yet, so.
We still have what, 20 days?
Yes, there's still
Until
time.
we lose it.
I might emphasize, yes,
20 days.
if we don't, if this is not passed, we lose our eligibility for that reimbursement and have to go back in and reapply again next season.
And see
Or
if we
next
get
cycle.
accepted back into the program.
Yeah.
Right.
And that means that the plan, which we talked about 2 years ago, that had to be completed in order to be eligible, can I assume, I haven't seen it, can I assume that part of the eligibility is completed and that we will not have issues with that?
It would be able to be incorporated, yes. So the draft of the comprehensive wastewater management plan will be available by the end of this year. And we've been working to accelerate and make sure everything's in tandem so that this design project is incorporating anything it can or responding to as the comprehensive plan is moving forward, so that it maintains its foundation for the future expansion. And so, as you mentioned, there are requirements to get the 0% financing, and one of those being a comprehensive wastewater plan. And so oftentimes, that's something that, as long as it's in draft form, we can follow up with that, and it doesn't have to be in draft form this October, for example, if that's your question.
By the end of the year?
But by the end of this year, we'll have it.
Has to be in draft form or final form?
Draft form should be sufficient, but that's what it'll be at the end of this year. It'll be in
Okay,
draft
thank
form,
you.
because it has to go through all the, you know, reviews with the town and everything. Yeah.
Well, at the risk of opening a different can of worms, I did watch the select board meeting last night, and this also came up in special town meeting in July. There was somehow an idea, and I don't think it's really been fully thought through. If it has, I don't understand why this seems appealing, but this idea that somehow we should know now what we need to do to fix the plant completely for, I don't know, forever, for a long time going forward. So let's just accept, for the sake of argument, that we do need to have a brand new plant. Like, we need to complete, it sounds like that's what they're thinking, that somehow we need a brand new, complete plant. If we were to start that process right now, how long would it take us to build a 3 million gallon outflow plant? Start to finish
Through
design?
planning and all,
Yeah, through planning and everything.
6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
At a minimum.
6 to 8 years.
4 years
At a
planning
minimum.
and 6 to 8.
So we would be looking, if we were somehow going to do that, go create a brand new plant that takes care of all of our problems in theory, at the cost of maybe 120 million or upwards of that,
No, yeah.
we would still have this plant to keep running, and we would still have these failing systems and pieces of equipment that are well past their expected life. You know, you might be able to get away with that, I think, with a water heater in your house, but would you really want a major system that you truly couldn't live in the house with? Your house would be condemned, for example, if you didn't? If
Let
you
me
didn't
add to
make-
that.
Yes, please.
Well, yes, we'd be running the existing system, but we're currently in a moratorium.
That's right.
There's no development, no addition. We did a workshop session, and we had the major departments in town come before us and advise us. It's like the planning. There is no one wanting to develop in the community because they cannot add in any additional sewerage.
Right.
They can't connect because that's the moratorium. Same
And-
building homes, et cetera.
Right, and if we have a shot at least of lifting the moratorium apart, if we go ahead and go forward with this now. If we wait 6 to 8 years to build a new plant, that's 6 to 8 years more of moratorium, I presume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors, as we have been discovered in our discussions. There's a lot of things that go through this process that we have responsible for. As an example, we haven't thought of sewering different parts of the community. We have to plan on that, we have that obligation. We have this Title V that came through recently, and we're fortunate the border for that Phase 1 stopped at Bourne, but, because we were
Phase
initially
2,
in it.
Right, we're phase 2, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that has a significant impact on the homeowners
Right.
and our ability to service them. But that's what we're exploring, the options that we have. Our objective is obviously to expand the plant's ability, and we've gone through various methods, and we've talked about the package plants, that smaller plants located around the community, because let's just examples, Shangri-La is a long way up there, but if we could put a plant near there, we could service that area and service them in their desperate need for it, because this Title V is gonna come in and it's gonna do harm financially to our
And if-
people as ourselves.
If we're able to do that, we also are adding customers who will share the cost.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Which will then bring the cost down for everyone, in theory. Okay, I just wanna make sure I understood that correctly. Because I can make I was saying 7 to 10 years, 6 to 8 is a little bit better, but I can
You're probably
imagine.
closer.
I can imagine is a huge project like this has got to take a very long time to plan and
Yeah.
execute. And we got supply chain issues all the time, and we've got, all kinds of hitches that show up, and costs just keep going up. And I'm just afraid we're in that situation that we ended up in with the police department, police facility, where we turned down what would have been an expensive but reasonable new facility, and now it's two times as much at least. And we find, we just keep putting things off on the theory that we're going to somehow figure out a cheaper way to do it, and the costs just keep
Is
going
it
up.
gonna happen?
With these issues that we're discussing here, with the 36 million in 2015, it was estimated at 18 million.
Exactly, everything's doubled.
Indeed.
And I'm looking at is this really mark to market at 55 million, 50 million?
Yeah.
That sounds like 2 years, I think I heard those numbers 2 years ago, so,
Yeah.
yikes.
You go first.
You said that the loss from the Headworks facility with the septic coming in is about 600 grand a year.
Yes,
Is that factored into the increase in the EDU?
no.
Would it?
You're talking, do we take the revenue and reduce the EDU because of that revenue? No, that's not a factor.
That's not a factor.
It's borrowing and it's what we're gonna have to pay for the borrowing. The revenue that we come from all sources for the enterprise fund or for the sewer is not factored in to say we'd have less than the $46 per EDU.
I,
The 600,000 that you were talking about for revenue, that's annually. Is it just strictly from Wareham, or does this include
Other
the,
towns.
It could be other towns, if they have a license to pump
If
in the
they're-
community from the Board of Health.
okay,
They do have
so if
registration.
they're bringing in, that's all included in this figure? Okay.
Don?
Bernie, but these repairs still won't help the moratorium, correct? Because we're at maximum discharge.
Correct.
So even if we go forward with this, there's still gonna be a moratorium on the town,
And that's because of this.
and I understand that.
Yeah.
But these repairs aren't gonna help that right now.
No, as I said, the clarifiers in itself, there's a 30% increase in their size and their processing ability. They make everything more efficient, what we have, however, it can affect it later on.
But it's still not gonna
No,
help.
it's not gonna have anything to do with today.
So, now I have another question. You're worried about this, 20 days to lose this funding. You're talking 10%. With a $36 million project, you're only talking 3.6 million.
Plus there, percent interest charge also, the eligibility for that.
Just the interest charge would be zero, that's more important than the 3.6 million.
Right now it is.
3.6 million, 10% of anything is a worthless endeavor in my opinion. But the percentage rate reduction, have you also looked into, the town getting other funding besides just the EDU users? I know it's another story for another day, but I just think that there's revenue out there that we're not looking at, and you're putting this project on the shoulders of 50-something% of the Wareham people. Not 100% of the Wareham people, but it's a Wareham facility, pollution facility, which only 50-something% of the people are paying for.
Understood
And that's a
now.
big, and that's gonna hurt you in people voting for this. It's just my opinion to it.
Yeah, we figured that, as I said, it's about $46 per EDU. And of course, we had another one, the past town meeting that was approved, was the narrows, the relining of the pipe. And that was another 80-some odd dollars, so you have a total of, or net out around 120, 130 per EDU for both of them.
Have you also looked, has really doesn't have a lot, has you also looked into changing the EDU system where it's kind of obsolete?
We're in the very preliminary discussions regarding that. There's so many issues on our table that we try to, do them as possible, but yes, we're in the very preliminary.
But funding should be second.
Pardon?
I said, I know repairs are on your top of your list, but I believe funding should be second and not.
Yes, as I say, it's also on our table. Discussions are very preliminary right now.
Okay, thank you for listening to me.
The EDU rate change has been discussed the last 9 years.
So it's
It's
three
not
towns
like
in
it's-
Massachusetts that still use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know how archaic it is.
No, I understand that, but you also have a town here in Massachusetts that has basically 3 towns within it.
Three municipalities. Yeah, and that's complicated.
Very. That's been the issue.
Sarah, I just have one more question. What I'm looking at, 6 to 8 years, I think 10 years.
Yeah.
So let's say it takes 10 years. Will we find, has the technology changed such that the clarifier and the headworks that we're replacing, will we be back here 10 years after that to say, beyond their useful life? Has the technology changed? It strikes me that it hasn't. I'd like to think it has.
10 years it might.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, it's a good question. I like it.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of the headworks equipment and the preliminary treatment equipment, there have been advances in like slight changes to change efficiency of something, but the general equipment itself, a lot of these processes have been in play for 10 years now, and some of and then for the clarifiers, right? There have been again some of the equipment to scrape the top, to scrape the scum off the top of the water, or to scrape the bottom. Some of those mechanisms and that equipment has changed to become more efficient as well. But again, the clarifiers equipment and design has been pretty
So basically,
standard.
we'll be here 2 years from now. Okay.
There's no cold fusion
Yeah.
on this, equivalent on this issue.
Don't think there's a lot of money going to research on all this stuff. Yeah, okay.
But again, the tanks, are, as we mentioned, the existing tanks aren't going away because they can be reused. It's just that it has a lot to do with the general, the ability of the main treatment process to handle only a certain amount. And so these new clarifiers are designed to not only handle that normal amount you see, but also handle the peaks that are currently being stored in the open lagoons that you see at the site. And so that plays into your concern about, are they gonna, I think what I maybe, if I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but, are we gonna be here in 10 years again because, if it was shallow 10 years ago, is it gonna be shallow again, or in 20 years ago, is it gonna be shallow again in 20 years? But it also had to do with the way it was designed at the time, right, to not handle the flows that are currently being stored in the basins that you see on site.
All right. May we let our colleagues go now? We will vote on this later tonight.
I'm done, I'm behaving, I'm done.
You're doing very
Thank
well.
you.
We appreciate your time, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I think this
Good
is a really
luck.
good presentation.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, so that allows us to go back to item A, which is Derek Sullivan, who finally was able to get free from his conflicting meeting.
Started at 9:30.
Oh, my goodness.
You're here, I thought you were over in your office just faking it.
I would have preferred that. If you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wearing your coat.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Didn't think we were gonna have the pleasure of your in-person company, but here you are.
Well, it's very few of you call it a pleasure, so thank you.
Aw. If you, you're the Rodney Dangerfield of Town Hall, I guess. If you wouldn't mind just identifying your name and your role for the record.
Yes, my name is Derek Sullivan. I'm the town administrator for Wareham. And tonight I bring before you 2 union contracts for the superior officers, also known as the lieutenants, and then the sergeants union as well. Do you want to keep a clean copy just in case for the minutes? So what I've included the 2 of them together, and I'm just going to go through on the basics. There's a large portion of here which is language about civil service, and I will not go through every single line on that. So this is a 3-year contract agreement. It's slightly in arrears. It expired on June 30th, 2023, so we'll be going through June 30th, 2026. The first one is the lieutenants and superior officers. We'll be adding a sick bank for them. They do not currently have a sick bank. And, I think that's a benefit for the employees, but it's also for the town. It doesn't really set up a large obligation, if you will. It's a 30-day sick bank, so rather than giving extra sick days, which are purchased back and such, it sets up that. And frankly, if somebody, we have a pretty generous sick time, so if somebody is in need of the sick bank, it's usually they're at their worst. So I think it's a good way to take care of town employees. The next one is vacation, and that allows them to use vacation in 2-hour increments. And so really not that much of an impact. The next one is the number 4 is the availability stipend, and that increases their annual stipend from $6,500 to $7,800. One of the things about the lieutenants is they're Fair Labor Standards Act exempt. So they actually do not get OT. There's a few times that they have during big festivals or something where it's all, but they truly don't get it, and they're on call, if you will. Well, each of them has their shifts and they have on-call weeks. If there's a major emergency, all three are coming in. So, I think this is, it's a fair thing and just increasing that. Number 5 is body cameras. The unions agreed to implement and participate in the use of body-worn cameras based on an agreeable policy, and that makes sense with the policy setting it up. So we're grateful, and we think it's body cameras are the future and are good for. I think they're good for the officers as well as the general public. The next one's an interesting one, and that's where it'll be most of the language. It's rescinding of civil service. What they're doing in this contract is agreeing that if the town were ever to rescind civil service, that they've already agreed to it. Town meeting accepted civil service, so the only way to undo that is to go to town meeting, and they would have to accept it. Civil service has become a bit archaic, and in today's day and age, you want it based on merit and not necessarily geographic location and doing the best on a test and a date and time. We've had a few people, when you go on the list, you can pass people over for cause, but almost every single time there's you'll have an appeal, and it's a lengthy process. I think civil service did have its point in time, and like many things, it's gone by the wayside. So this talks about layoff, recall, just cause. These are all things that are established within civil service that you take on your own end now. So just going to page 6 as it's listed. Really, we should probably just go to page 7. You'll see what happened was step 1, you'll see the current salary schedule, the adjusted one, and then in years 2 and 3, which would be fiscal 25 and fiscal 26, there are 3% adjustments to the salary scales, and we created a step 7 along the way. There are 3 lieutenants in the positions, and the impact for this budget would be $8,842.91. So, under $8,900. I hate giving the cents. I always feel like I'm being pompous saying that, but so it's a good contract. There's I will tell you, it's not 2009 anymore for salaries for a lot of the positions. So it's these are well within the scope of what you see in other communities. Some of the cities are going well above this, like Taunton, Brockton. So I think we're lucky to keep the staff that we have. The next one is the sergeants. So if you flip to the next page, it's sort of the new page 1. Again, 3-year contract. It's on the same time frame, so it will go through July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Vacation. This is the number 2. Those employees with at least 12 years of service shall be entitled to 1 extra vacation day of service after 12 years, not to exceed a maximum of 12 days. We've now added employees hired or promoted to this bargaining unit on or after July 1, 2023 will not be eligible for this benefit. So we're just moving away from, at some of the times, employees, when they took zeros and other such things, they were paid in vacation benefits or things such as that. We're just trying to work together to eliminate some of those that can give the town high exposure. Educational incentive pay, the Quinn bill, we used to be reimbursed 100%. That stopped probably, I think, right when I was coming on board, so 2012 or such. So we started moving away from their, 25% for masters, 20% for bachelors, I think 10 for associates. We moved to flat fees on it, and just keeping up with some of the surrounding areas, we've increased the flat fees for them. And we did it in year one and then year two, so it wasn't an immediate impact. They've gone with the body worn cameras and civil service as well. We appreciate their working with us on it. And then the last page is, you'll see, this wage schedule is gonna be a little different. It looks like there's a big jump on step one from the old contract to the new one, and in effect there is. But what happened is, when you see the placements, someone that was on step two in 2022 actually gets moved to step one in 2023, which mitigates that initial impact, but also gives them some place to go. The patrol officers' highest end, including some of the incentives, was starting to push up against the sergeant's starting salary. Some places have it where you're 25% greater than the patrol salary the sergeant's first step is. It's I try not to get into that, because sometimes the percentages can really have an impact if you're not paying attention when you do things like that. So, and then you amend years 2 and 3. You're adding the 3% adjustments. And we created the step 5 at the end there. In this one, there's 7 positions filled in there, and that would be $17,103.15.
So, just to clarify for me, because I have to write this one up.
Yes.
It's an $8,900 impact to
Yeah.
the town budget?
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
and
I
17,103 to the town budget?
Correct, yeah. If you want, it's 8842. If you want to do 17,1 or round up 17,2 and, the 8,900, I don't think we'll get.
I don't like the precise numbers.
Yeah.
I'm much better with round numbers. I understand them better, and they're close enough for jazz.
Yeah, so,
Okay. I know that financial people sometimes want to say down to the cents, and I don't find that helpful.
so, and this is the impact. We do have the funding in the budget, so we're not seeking additional allocations to this year's budget.
Great. Any questions?
I just have one. Derek, I remember it, when the chief came before us when was it now? We talked about body cameras. He was definitely in favor of body cameras and talked just as you similarly did. What does the agreeable policy mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, so you have to say how they will be used. There's also who's going to be the custodian of them. They become a public record. How they'll, when can they be turned off and not? What's the discipline if something happens and there's something going on, it gets turned off? Is there discipline? Was it an accident? How do you come along? And they've been working on that. I don't think they've finished up the policy yet, but it's been an interactive
That's what they're doing.
dialogue
Okay, that's
with
great.
the unions.
And
So-
presumably, this is something that other towns are also grappling with.
Yeah,
right now.
and I appreciate it. Sometimes I think everybody sort of sees the benefits. I can tell you how many times you've had, there's allegations that maybe are not as forthright as they could be.
Right,
So,
and
and I-
puts us at risk.
Yeah, so I think it's helpful, and frankly, if you are a bad actor and this could help, but I don't see that on our end, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No. All right, thank you, Derek.
All right, thank you
Go
very
home.
much.
Thanks, Derek.
Have a good night, Emma.
Same to you.
You too.
All right, that takes us to item C, presentation and discussion of Fall Town Meeting Article 28, accept Candle Paper Lane. And we have Roger Mello here. Would you step forward, please? And if you would just give your name and sort of your interest in all of this for the record.
Sure thing. My name is Roger Mello, M-E-L-L-O, and I live at number 9 Candle Paper Lane, West Wareham. And my wife and I built a home there approximately 13 years ago.
And could you explain, first of all, I know you appeared before the select board last night. I also watched that meeting, and I'll probably have some questions or comments around that. But if you could just explain briefly what it is that you're trying to have done here.
What we've been trying to do for several years now, is when we moved into this development, what was brought to our attention, and documentation was submitted to us as well, that we were required to meet certain covenants for that development, 12-lot development. We were required to build a certain size house, minimum size, 2-car garage, etc. That was it. There wasn't any other issues that any of us had, other than to build the house and be good neighbors. When we moved in, the development was near completion. The only thing that was remaining to have done was the final coating of the road. When they put in a subdivision road, they basically put down gravel in the first coat of blacktop. They do all their things, put the drainage in and whatnot. And then the last thing is to pretty it up, that final coat. That had not been done. The developer at that time, Mr. William Cornish, which he apologizes for not being here today and yesterday's in Nantucket, it hadn't been completed, and because of the economy at that time, Mr. Cornish had sold off several of the lots that hadn't been built upon. The planning board, based on their rules and regulations, they had a performance bond that they were holding for approximately $35,000. I met with Mr. Barrett about trying to get this thing done. My background, when I was in the military, I was an artillery surveyor, came out, worked for Sweetser Engineering, Town of Rossville Engineering Department, did some work for the planning board there. So that's a little bit of mine. And I felt that I could do this on behalf of the neighbors. So when I met with Mr. Barrett, I said, how can we get this thing resolved? And he said, well, it's really just that final cost of blacktop that'll take care of this. So we reached out to a couple of contractors, ultimately one from the Cape, Clover Paving, came in and they were able to finish it up and purge the last dollar that was in that performance bond, which we were happy to see. So it didn't cost the town any additional funds, or the neighborhood for that matter. At that time when it was done, the processes were to have Mr. Gifford, I believe he was the director of municipal maintenance, very nice man. John Charbonneau, I think he was the town planner at the time. Mr. Barrett, of course, and Mr. Foster, who I've never met. I think he's still here, the town treasurer. And he was required because of, again, the processes. There was $34,000 that had to carefully be handed over to the developer, and then the developer handing it over to the paving guys. And that took care of that. I was able to get Mr. Cornish to fill out the petition at that time to have the road accepted. He went door to door, got all the signatures, submitted it to the selectman's office, and then we sat back and waited. We didn't hear anything.
When was this? What year? Do you remember?
I'm not sure of the year. I would guess that we went in
Could have been 2012.
2012.
11 years ago.
That's just
Roughly
a
10,
guess.
11 years
Yeah,
ago.
10, 11
Okay.
years ago. And nothing had happened. And again, I wasn't totally familiar with how things work here in Wareham. And I saw Mr. Barrett, and I said, how are we doing with the road? I don't know how all this stuff works. I just thought it goes on the warrant. People hear an explanation of it. Developer's satisfied, all of his obligations. yea or nay. Town of Marion is an example, they're a little bit different. The developer comes in, does the road, they inspect it, they said everything is fine, it becomes a town road. They don't go through this same formality that we have here. So having said that, moving forward, the petition got lost. Mr. Cornish went around, door knocked again for the second time, submitted it for a second time. Then it became, we need another inspection, and Mr. Rowley, Charles Rowley, I believe he is a retired civil engineer, land surveyor, and the town periodically uses him as a consulting engineer. And they hired him to come in and take a look at everything, look at the drainage, look at the road, look at all of the vegetation that had to be planted. It's called Maple Grove, so needless to say, there's maple trees all over the place. Did a very nice job. Mr. Cornish, by the way, at that time spent $550,000 for a 12-lot subdivision, which is a significant amount of money for that subdivision, because one of his requirements is he couldn't put berm on the side of the roads, he had to put curbstones on the side of the roads, et cetera, et cetera. Came out very nice, that's not the issue. Would I have done it that way? No, but it is what it is. Mr. Rowley, in his report, which I read, it was just a one-page report that basically said, I inspected it, and the developer did what he was supposed to do and actually exceeded what he was required to do. And that was probably because of all the nice work that he did with the vegetation and the curbstones. We don't have curbstones in this town with the exception of maybe Main Street, where I don't like them. Story for another day. So he says everything is good, and then I checked with Mr. Barrett, and he said, well, there's another issue. We feel that you should form an association, and I know how that works. And I said, gee, George, it was never in the cards to have an association for this small development. And he said, well, I don't think it's ever gonna go through. So then it got bogged down. So moving forward.
If I may interject, because I have heard this before, the association was supposed to be formed to take care of an island in a cul-de-sac, is that right, or, no?
Quite honestly, I don't know what it was for.
That's, I think that's what, I thought that was what, Ken Buckland said last night.
I heard, well, I think they were talking about prettying up the cul-de-sac, which the cul-de-sac is fine the way it is. I know one of the issues, I think it was Mr. Slavin felt that the sidewalk was an issue and the association would take care of the sidewalk. The reality of it is, in all the years we've been there, the town has never shoveled a sidewalk. The neighbors do, just like if you lived in the city.
If I may interject, there were three items that they had concern with. One was the island, which is an empty plot at the end of the cul-de-sac. Second were sidewalks. The third was the stormwater drainage,
Yes.
which I don't think it's set up for at this time. And then the other item was the
Cleaning out the basins.
width of the road not being able to get
Right.
emergency vehicles up and
Yeah,
down.
I brought that up as kind of an aside. I think it was misinterpreted. When I brought that up, it was to give Mr. Cornish a pat on the back, and that he went above and beyond by putting those curbings in. That it was a nicer looking road, if you will, because the edges of the blacktop wouldn't be breaking up from people driving over the edges. It wasn't to cast an aspersion on the road being narrow, although most roads are 24 feet. That one isn't. People can't park on the side of the road. We all have to park in our driveways, otherwise you create a problem, especially when it snows. So those issues that were brought up, I've heard them before. I know there is drainage in there, like any other road. I'm fully aware of that. I'm fully aware that there's utilities in there and whatnot. But that was never brought up as an issue for the residents to take over the responsibility of that until recent.
And this was the planning board that set these
This
conditions?
was the planning board. And when I went down this path, which I was unable to do, disappointingly so, under the Freedom of Information Act, I requested all the documents on this thing because I was trying to get my head around as to how did it fall off the track? This is not that complicated a thing. And when you would ask to bring all the documents that I got, because I didn't want to elaborate that I've been trying to do that, but unsuccessful. I didn't get them all.
I wasn't suggesting you should bring all the
No.
documents. I just meant if you had a handout for
Bring
us.
something, yeah, I would have brought something, we'd be here all night.
No.
But anyhow, I got back to, how do these rules work? Subdivision rules and regulations. I know pretty much how they work. People get together and say, what do we want? What do we need? What's in the best interest of the people that are gonna be spending all their money and moving forward? What's in the best interest of the taxpayers? Build a good road so it doesn't require a lot of maintenance. We don't wanna keep going back and having it become a money pit. So these requirements are pretty stringent today.
So just to get to sort of, I think where we have to be to make a decision on this.
Sure.
I heard town council say last night that until the select board accepts the plan, we really can't do anything. That, and there is, they have not done that. Last night they voted to recommend further study. So I'm not really sure there's anything we can do right now, or that the town meeting can do right now to help you, unless and until you get the select board on board with what needs to be done.
Okay,
Is that what you heard last night?
I didn't catch the tail end of it.
Okay,
I was beat, I had to go to Boston, I was exhausted yesterday.
it was a long day.
As it relates to the plan, I did hear town council talk about that. And the plan that he's referring to is, when they first do a development plan, it shows everybody the road, how many house lots are in there, basically. When it comes to the taking of the road, there is another plan. They call it the as-built plan. Like when you build a house on a lot,
Yeah.
they wanna see where does the house fit on the lot, the as-built. They take the as-built plan, and then they do a mathematical description with meets and bounds, degrees, minutes, and seconds. So it starts at one point, and goes around the cul-de-sac, comes back to the point of beginning. That's the piece of real estate that would be taken for the town for that road. What I brought up at the meeting, I think it was Mr. Slavin. I bumped into him. I didn't really know him, but I bumped into him about a week ago. And he was under the impression that we, the residents of Candlepaper, own to the center line of the road. I've seen that before in my other life as a surveyor. That is not fact. My legal document says that I own, and my wife and I own, number 9 Candlepaper Lane, which is described along the edge of the road layout, not the blacktop, the road layout. The road layout edge allows you to put in your utilities, the blacktop, et cetera, sidewalks in this case too. We do not own the road. This is my bone of contention. The road is legally owned by the developer. The developer, Mr. Cornish, had also, in the spirit of cooperation, he donated a big chunk of land to the town for conservation. That's in that Westgate thing over that way, I think they call it, Westgate. So he donated a piece. He was telling me the whole story. He says, I did it, I could have made another lot out of it, but he says, I wanted to get this thing done. I wanted to build my houses, live happily thereafter. And now he wants that land back. Story for another day. But he donated that land. But he owns it, and he receives a tax bill for it. And I believe he pays his taxes. And at one time he said, I'm so angry at this, I'd like to build a house on the cul-de-sac.
On the island?
On the island, because it satisfies the regulations.
Well, I feel like we're getting a little bit away from what you're actually asking for. And I think, if I may just sum up
Sure.
what I think you're asking for, you are asking the town to take over the road.
Take over the
Very,
road.
very simple term.
Yes, and I'm trying to give you a little history of it, because I've been telling this story for a while, trying to get the neighbors, a lot of elderly neighbors there, half of the neighbors are veterans too. It's not that complicated. Cranberry Lane was developed the same time as Candlepaper Lane. It was approved, period. This one here got tied up somehow, and I'm not trying to be critical of the players that were all involved in this. It is not the plan, it's just, it's taken this turn where they wanna put the onus on the residents that are there to take over the future maintenance of the drainage, whatever else there is to it.
All right, so you want town meeting to vote for the town to take the road?
As is.
As is.
As
And
is,
you
right?
have been told by the planning board that some conditions might need to be met that you don't believe you should have to meet, is that
That's
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, I think that's it.
That's it.
Can I just see if anybody else has any questions of you right now, because I
Sure.
don't wanna keep you here.
No, that's
any
it,
later than we
and I'm
have to.
sorry for being so
That's okay.
long-winded.
Anybody have a question?
I have one.
Yes, Heidi.
Is the town plowing the road?
Yes. The town is plowing the road, the residents are doing the sidewalks, including myself. We have no problem shoveling the sidewalk, that's not an issue. One of the issues that came up last night was also, I think you heard Mr. Buckland talk about taking over the electric utilities. I retired from the electric industry, that is not in the cards. When we have a power outage, my former company comes out and fixes those transformers. No residents ever handle their own transformers, never been in the state of Massachusetts anyhow.
Yes, Tom?
You said that the selectmen voted for further study.
Yes.
Isn't that something that is supposed to be said at town meeting? Are they supposed to either all abstain or all vote no or yes? That's not a vote on a warrant.
I don't,
Am I right or wrong?
well, it's their vote on this warrant. What, as I understood it last night, and we can discuss this more when we vote on this, but in very brief terms, the residents went before the planning board. The planning board said, we're okay with this if you do these 4 things. They don't believe they should have to do those 4 things. They went before, they came up with a petition. They went last night before the select board. They still don't wanna do those 4 things, and the select board is not willing to recommend favorable action on this.
But it's on the warrant.
But it is on the warrant.
It's on the warrant
As
to
a
see if the
petition.
town will vote to accept the select board's layout of Candlepaper Lane.
But they don't have a
They
layout,
don't have a layout.
because they did not approve a layout.
So it's not,
I don't
I don't have the
see,
warrant in front of me, the warrant isn't written.
he just
to-
read it verbatim.
I just read,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
As a public way.
This is a citizen's petition, so we have no choice but to have it on the warrant,
Right.
because it was properly
one. If-
petitioned and
If you wanna read it
signatures.
really,
Yeah.
it's Article
I
28
just wanted to.
But it doesn't mean that we
to
actually can do
accept
anything.
the select board's layout, so whoever wrote the warrant didn't do them, you didn't do yourself
It's a-
any good.
it's a
by the way
citizens
you worded
petition.
it.
It's, and I mean,
That's
it's,
what hurt you by saying, accept the select board's layout. You should have just put in, have the town accept that as a road.
according to town council, that wouldn't have done it, because the first step is for the select board to
The select
approve.
boards have to create a layout of the road.
For
in
all
order
roads,
for
under
it.
the
We have
subdivision
a
law
real
as well.
estate lawyer
Under
here.
the subdivision control law
Yes,
as well.
she knows,
So,
she knows.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the challenge,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's-
it's not that we don't feel like, you know, we
Yes.
would like to help you,
Thanks,
but we
Matt.
probably are not able to help you in this situation. Just want you to know, we haven't voted yet,
But we can vote on
but
it.
but we're in a
I don't have
difficult
problem with
position.
it, but
Yeah.
Yes.
unless you get the select, because they do it like Norma says.
Yeah,
It's
I
not gonna
think,
fly at town meeting, I wish it would, but it,
I don't think that
It's-
means this is the end of it for you. I think it means you've gotta do some more.
Right, I think we're gonna end up seeing you back again.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's the
Well,
way
we
it.
would gladly do whatever someone needs as far as satisfying what everyone else has done in this town with the road, not something new and different. whatever that is. The layout, I'm familiar with the layout. I know Mr. Cornish paid an additional $1,500 for that taking plan
Yeah.
that he
Like you
handled.
said, you gotta get the select board on
You have
board.
to go through your steps, and unfortunately, and sometimes they don't make sense to everybody, but they are the steps that everybody has to go through one way or another.
Correct.
So, thank you for
And
your
these are steps
presentation.
that, it's just that, these are steps that Mr. Cornish was supposed to do prior
Yeah.
to finishing the project. So the actual, and I hate to say it this way, but the actual blame falls onto the developer to not have this completed. And
In accordance with subdivision laws.
Right.
in accordance with
Right.
subdivision
Yeah,
laws,
this
and I
is state
think
law.
that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
you might wanna start
yeah.
your focus
Because
to come
you know,
back
it's
up.
remember, it says it's state law. It's not really
It's-
necessarily, subdivision laws come from the state, so
Right.
it's not really,
Thank you. I have
Our
no
hunt.
problem with that.
yeah.
Mr. Cornish is fully aware that he owns the development. He would like to resolve this, so I am confident
I'll bet he
whatever he needs to do, he
Right.
will do it.
I
I
think
think
it
he
can-
needs to come in and sit down with,
The select board and do
Yeah.
what they say, that's
And
the bottom line.
I think that's right, and, you know, best of luck to you, but I do think our hands are gonna be pretty much tied
Okay,
on this.
no, I
Just wanted
appreciate
you to
that.
know.
I appreciate that,
It's
and
not
thank you
personal.
for the opportunity to come in and meet all you
Thank you so
folks, and
thank you, no, we
thank you
appreciate
for
it.
all your
I think you can
volunteer
pull it,
work.
you can pull it off, just pull the right strings, that's all.
Yeah, that's
There
Don's
is one
specialty.
that I haven't pulled yet, but I'll save that for another day.
There you go.
This is my wife, Donna.
I know.
Donna, nice to
Donna
meet you.
is a certified Shine volunteer. She's been working over at the Council on Aging, helping the elderly people get their supplemental insurance, and she thoroughly enjoys it.
Might have to come visit you soon.
Well, we're all getting older. I do advocacy work for veterans. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, so.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, appreciate it.
Nice
Have a good
meeting
evening.
all of you.
Okay, so our, item D is presentation and discussion of fall town meeting, administration, Article 1, Jerry Stefanski. I believe this will be short.
Yes, there is no capital plan for, our article for the capital planning, because there is no free cash yet.
And, the select board voted last night to pass over
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, as a more of a newcomer, you guys, I'm around a little bit longer. We also vote on a passover motion, or do we just not weigh in at all? I'm not really sure what is the right procedure here.
It's passed over by the town, it's,
Yeah.
a vote is, a vote is
We don't
allowed.
have to- Yeah, we don't have to
But we,
vote on
I
it.
think what we've done in the past is just all abstained.
Okay, let's, I think.
You know, so you have a vote on record, but it's not necessarily.
Okay,
Yeah, we discussed it, but we
We just
decided,
put-
yeah.
all right,
Or approve the Passover, I don't,
Yeah.
well,
yeah, that's what they.
Make a motion to approve the
That's what,
Passover,
yeah, that's what was done last night.
yeah.
All right, and item E, presentation and discussion of 10-year plan. Again, Jerry, as capital planning committee chair, I sent out today, I'm sorry it was a little bit belated, but I did send out today,
It's I probably may be misinformed, it's a 5-year plan.
oh, okay.
We struggle with the 5 years.
That
but-
explains why there are only
You know-
5 years there.
I'm
I'm
really
trying to think of
impressed, Jerry,
quite
please.
So I got a handout of it, but I guess.
If you can just briefly sum it up, I mean,
Okay.
there's no action on this, this is not
No,
on the
this is,
warrant.
in fact, you.
This is
you-
for our records.
Yes,
You may not even want to include it in the financial report for the town meeting.
right,
It's not
It's not that-
mandatory to have.
that much.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna put it up under the capital planning, we're gonna put the plan up there tomorrow for everyone to see. What we've done over the last 4 months or so, you break the capital plan down into three components. There's the town departments, the Wareham Public School, and Wareham Pollution Control Facility. So, the department heads that have a capital planning expenditure, or request, I should say, come in, and they have forms to fill out. They present it to the capital planning committee, and we review the forms. We're, as the committee, we're not going to, deny the request. we just kind of want to gather the information and gather the expenditures or the amounts that the department heads feel they need. And then what we do is we put it down on a capital plan.
This is the wish list.
It's a wish list, and it's disregarding funding, okay? So, the first, I don't know, Norm, you want me to talk about the amounts, or just?
I don't think we need to
Okay,
go, I mean,
so
everyone can read
basically,
this.
the first 2 pages, or 3 pages are the town departments. Some have requested money, some have not. The fourth page is both the middle school, or the school, and the pollution control facility. The school's budget, the superintendent came in, as well as the department head for maintenance, and presented to us for their, what they see as expenditures in the future. What you should know is that last year, there was a couple of years ago, fall of '21, fire alarm system for the high school was $280,000 was approved. However, they haven't done it yet. And the latest quote has come up to $980,000.
Wow.
So that's basically fits in with what Bernie was talking about. If, you do it now, or you double do or triple do it later.
I mean, if I may just interrupt for a second, Jerry, when I sent this out to everyone, I reformatted it a little bit to get
Okay.
it on fewer pages.
Yeah.
So when your page numbers are not lining up, I think everyone can probably
Okay,
follow along.
I just
It's-
do the category then.
Yeah, I should have told you that.
So that's what I want you to know about the school, and also they put a technology for the high school and middle school. You have heard where the elementary school, they go in and they control the humidity and all of that. So that technology, they don't have that technology for the high school or middle school, and that 100,000 was to try and catch up with the elementary school. The pollution control facility, Bernie came in with Guy Capina, and they eliminated some projects that had been completed. But more or less, and then they put in 18 million for the headworks and clarifiers. But more or less, they just reviewed what they had before, and they thought at this time, until they get a new director, that it would probably just leave it alone with the stuff that was there before, and then have the new director come in and do his look-see at it. And also, they talked about the capital plan, or the 5-year water pollution control plan. That is not reflected in here.
Yeah.
This is just,
Current needs.
current thinking.
Yeah, gotcha. And
So
actually,
maybe
that's
it was
I think it's a
revised.
20-year comprehensive water
Yeah.
management plan. so-
But we did throw in the 105 million. Okay, the last column, extraordinary expenses. Remember they ended up today with phase 2 or phase 3, 155 million and one. So you can see that we have in extraordinary items in the pollution control facility, about 109 million known.
Yeah.
That stays at that 1.57
Yeah.
discharge capacity.
I'll be dead.
Now, then the last page, the summary page, there's some pretty big numbers there. The thing is, you look at these numbers, of course, and they're not we're not talking about funding, but we know free cash is what, well, let's just say $3 million.
At the most.
Anything over $3 million, it's gotta come from where? Overrides.
Right.
And another thing that's not in
Or
here
to
is
some
the
extent borrowing.
police station. Not
Police
in
station's
here.
not even on here.
Because, that was reviewed, and then it was reviewed again,
Right.
and then de-sixed.
And it doubled,
And they'll review
more
it
than
again.
doubled.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions on any of this for Jerry? Thank you. Okay? So, no action needed on that. And, so at this point, we're can vote on everything that we've heard, which is everything. And I think, let's just, if you got the vote grid that I sent out earlier today, that should be completely up to date, including the votes that the, that the select board made last night. Let's see if I can find my copy. And I think we should just go from the top there. Let's see. I don't know where mine went. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, the first is Article 1, approve and fund FY '23 capital plan. I guess we could take a motion on that.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. And
Approve the Passover?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, are we gonna vote on the Passover or on the plan itself and
There is
abstain?
no plan, so how do you,
Why don't we,
We have to vote to approve, and then you can just all
Yeah,
abstain, or
abstain.
just, pass
why
over.
don't I amend that, because the first two are both
Passover? Okay.
Passover.
Yeah, okay.
To
So
both.
if I can suggest to redo the motion to approve Articles 1 and 2.
Passover
Because we're
1
gonna
and
pass
2?
over both.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay,
Uh,
so that's 600.
Mhm.
All right. Prior year bills and deficits, which we heard from Derek on before. Those are a couple of water pollution control related bills that just came in late for various reasons.
Mhm.
Make a motion to approve Article 3.
Second?
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? It passes 600.
Make a motion to accept Article 4, the PEG access receipts.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600.
Make a motion on Article 5, union contracts, which we just heard from Derek.
Yes.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. All right, we've already voted on the next few. We're down to Article 13, delete lottery requirement for town meeting articles.
Make a motion to accept Article 13 as written.
The second?
Second?
All right. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, the easement agreement, Article 14, the easement agreement with N-Star at the Hammond School.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It passes 600. All right, and down to Article 17, Saturday hours. This was presented by the town clerk and
No,
requested
we
by.
did that one already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I can't, my eyes are
That's
crossing here.
okay.
We're down to the zoning bylaws.
Yes, I make a motion to accept zoning bylaws 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, and 23, 24 as written.
All right,
Actually, there's one more, 25, no, we'll stop at 24.
24. All right.
18 through 24.
All right, Articles 18, and I think you said zoning bylaws, but you meant articles, town meeting warrant articles.
Yes.
Yes.
Second to 24.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It passes 600. All of those pass 600. That's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. 25 is the one that sort of became moot because of the timing of the Attorney General's ruling on our prior battery bylaw, our solar bylaw. So that's also been voted to pass over by the select board. Do I have a motion on that?
Make a motion, Article 25 to amend the zoning bylaw 590, that we pass over the same as the select board.
All right,
Second.
any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It passes 600. All right. Just make sure my notes are right here. All right, and now the big one from this evening, Article 26, construction costs for WPCF projects, clarifier and headworks upgrades. Do I have a motion on that one?
I'll make the motion.
A motion to approve.
Motion to recommend favorable action?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion. I know you're gonna wanna say something, Dom.
No, I'm gonna vote no. That's all. Plain and simple, they don't have their act together. And that's just how I feel about it. I understand that that probably some repairs are necessary, but to spend $36 million and with our outflow at a maximum at that same plant, same position, I think is, I could use a word, but we're on TV. So I just, and also I'm against the way they're funding the EDU. I'm just against the whole thing, and that's just my personal opinion.
Matt?
I don't disagree with you. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done on the back end of this. But if we keep putting this off, we're already outside of our contract. So the ramifications to the town are gonna be far worse
Yeah, but you know
than
what?
anything that we're gonna spend out.
They could come in with a different repair plan that's not as expensive. Just from what I heard and what I saw, they're asking to do a lot more. I feel a lot more than it's actually necessary to keep the plant running. It's just my opinion.
And here's my response to that.
Yeah.
I understand that people believe that,
Yeah.
but no one has come in with an alternative. No one has come in with any actual evidence that this is too much, that it's not the best way to go. Everything that's been presented to us is that we need to do this. $36 million doesn't sound affordable, and I disagree with you, Dom. I think
Okay.
10% of 36 million is a lot.
3.6 million, 10% of anything.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
but
I just-
the
I just-
best point,
I don't have-
the best point of that is a
May I
0
finish?
percentage. Yes,
May I
Dan,
finish?
yes, Dan.
I obviously don't have as much money as you do, because I think that's a lot of money. But I believe every time we put something off, it comes back to haunt us, and I just don't think this is the time to do that. I think they presented a very strong case for how this fits into future improvements. And yes, it's not gonna get us any significantly more capacity now, but you don't refuse to fix a system in your home because you might build a house later on that's bigger and better, but you don't actually have a plan for that because, you also can just keep squeezing into the house you have. I just don't think you put off a really important repair like this on the speculation that there could be
And
something better out there.
And I believe you that there is a repair needed,
Yeah.
okay? I don't believe full replacement is necessary. That's just my opinion, everyone has their own opinion, I mean, $46 per EDU doesn't sound like, a super lot for a single home. But you have a lot of people paying a lot more EDUs than just a single family home. I
And
mean,
presumably those are income producing properties. I would
yeah, and
assume.
a lot of commercial properties.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm upwards to over 150 EDUs.
I understand, like I
Okay.
said, you have a lot more money.
Oh, yeah, Lord, I know.
Let's,
But-
I think Julie
but
has
Julie,
something
go
to say.
ahead.
Let's let her
And
talk.
I don't disagree with any of you. I think that we are paying for a lack of foresight, a lack of planning, a lack of understanding what needed to be done. And I think some of the 36 million, we are paying when maybe we might not have had to pay for.
'Cause it
I
dragged their feet,
am worried, but at the same time, I believe that infrastructure bill is bringing money in. I worry that a year from now, it will be higher, and we may have a DEP disaster on our hands, where they would come in and fix it and charge
And
us
charge
back.
us a lot more.
And I feel like, here we are, we have 3 weeks to get this application in, shame on us. But I feel we don't have any, if we don't get this in with this town meeting, I think we're gonna pay more. Yes, for the system, but also may not have that financing available. So I hope it's a wake-up call around how do we create a plan that makes sense and present it to the town. I've yet to see the plan, I'd love to see it, so that we all can understand, to Dom's point, what exactly is going on over there, and why is it that we are now having to deal with something that we'd like a whole lot more information on, so, sorry.
Wait,
Go ahead, Matt, go ahead.
And just to bring up another point, this is not the first time that these two items have made it to this table.
Agreed,
it's true, it's the third
It
time.
is not.
yes.
And I'm not talking just within this last year or these last 2 years. The old format, so to speak, of the before the sewer commissioners took over, they completely knocked this one out of the park. So when this should have been done,
They've been asking, they ask for millions of dollars every single year for as long as I can remember.
and it
Billions.
only gets more and more and more and more. The more we say no, the more it's gonna be.
Exactly,
Expensive.
and the problem has not gone away.
And and the problem's not gonna stop, it's only gonna get worse.
Okay, just one other thing that it might have something to do with it, might not. You're asking the townspeople to vote when it only affects 50% of them.
And that is another issue, I gotta say, that came up at special town meeting. We've had 3 months where somebody could have put that out to actually be voted on at this point, and no one has done it.
Yep.
So that, to me, is a false flag. That is just, that's
You don't
not something
believe-
that is before us now, it's
Okay,
not
no,
something.
no,
that's
and I agree, it might not have nothing to do with it, I agree, you're right, you're right.
I'm not saying.
So
that
another
you're-
date, not
I'm not
another
saying
day.
you're absolutely wrong,
No,
although.
another day,
Yeah.
another day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any
I have no
other-
problem with that.
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
How'd the board vote last night?
They voted 2-1-1. And
But
there was-
one of the people that would have been against it was not there.
the
It
one
should have been
person was not there.
2-2-1.
Well,
They-
That's my
and they will
opinion.
probably vote next week again.
Oh,
Right, they
okay.
were talking about that, there's a possibility that might come back up next week, so
Right.
we have to go based off of our beliefs.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, that, whatever the Board of Selectmen
No,
want
you
to
know
do,
what,
the
the
Select
Board of
Board wanna do.
Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen vote their way, we gotta vote our way, we
That's
gotta be our own
right.
person.
They're
But
our
I
own
think
people.
they're the ones that killed it at last town meeting.
And it doesn't matter what they think, if they think it's a horrible idea, let them think that, it's
But-
not them.
But
it's us.
obviously,
But we have to look at it.
obviously, 2 of them have changed their mind. 2 voted for it, they all voted against it last time.
That's right.
And it really hasn't changed much,
Well,
in
we,
my opinion.
No, but they brought some of the information that the
That-
members of the.
More information, right, but the
Yes.
basic has not changed.
and time has passed and people have had a chance to think about it more, I think. Jerry, do you have
If
anything?
not now, when?
I agree.
Agreed.
Anything else before we vote? All right. All those in favor, the motion on the floor is to vote favorable recommendation on Article 26. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstaining. All right, it passes 5-1-0. All right, and Article 27, bylaw correction, stormwater permit.
I make a motion to approve.
All right, a second.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It passes 6-0-0-0.
No, but before we do 28, I have a question.
Okay?
Select Board voted 3-0-1, but then said further study?
They voted for 3-0-1 for further
For
study.
further study.
The motion
Before the
I
was,
understand now,
instead
okay.
of a motion for favorable action, it was a motion for further study.
Gotcha.
All right? So-
I'll make a motion for, I'm sorry.
Just start digging. All right?
Why don't we make a motion to refer to floor, because if they come up with something else next
Between
week,
now and
we
then.
don't want.
That's a good point.
Good point, Matt.
You wanna make that motion?
I move that we refer Article 28, petition article for Candle Paper Lane to the floor.
For town meeting, okay? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. So I do think, let me just say, having listened to what town council said, I do believe that this probably will be ruled out of order because there is no plan, unless the select board creates a plan between now and town meeting, or approves a plan between now and town meeting. But I think this is a good way for us to approach it.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're
Refer to the
just
floor.
sending it to the floor?
Yes, so just like we did with Article 29, the gift of the bench, which is
Okay.
really in violation of a town policy. We're not taking a position saying it should be done, we're saying, take it to the town floor and let them say what
Right,
they
well,
want.
we'll let
Okay.
the moderator and
So,
the floor handle.
so the motion is to refer to town meeting on Article 28. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, passes 6-0-0. And that is all of our votes.
Okay.
Do you want me to take a picture of this and give it back to you? Or you've got your own notes? Thank you.
Yes,
Somehow I managed to get here without my copy of the vote grid I sent to all of you.
Like I said, I couldn't get it printed, so
Oh, yeah.
that's why I was just looking at my.
I think it's in here.
Well,
Maybe
do you
it's in here.
need any articles written, or has everything already been done and
So
assigned?
we'll get to that in just a minute.
Okay.
Everything is assigned, but I will just give you an update on what I've got and what I'm still looking for and where we are on the report. But first, we have the approval of Kelly Barrasso's contract to transcribe our minutes. I will say that what I sent out to you actually needs to be amended to, apparently, the contract, I did not draft the contract, so I don't think this is on me, but apparently the contract needs to be between the town administrator, the town of Wareham through its town administrator, where we've got it through the Board of Selectmen, which again is not the right term anymore. There was a mention in section 5 to Childscapes, which should have read Kelly Barrasso, and then she's not required to hold all this insurance that's listed under
Article
7.
7.
Yeah, so I am going to entertain a motion that we approve this contract subject to those changes.
I'll make a motion.
All right, second,
Second.
any discussion? Her rate continues at $25 an hour. This goes through October 1st of next year. She does a great job, she's very
Kelly's the
responsible.
best.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, it passes 6-0-0.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Kelly's the best.
She is the best. All right. So that takes us to the town meeting report, the last item on our agenda. And just to give you an update on where we are on that, obviously, we're not gonna be able to have something in time to get it to Gateway. I came up with the idea as an economical way to have cover art, to have something that could be done in black and white, and I found something in the public domain, which is an 1832 map of Wareham. I'll pass it around if you wanna look.
Cool.
It would be sized down a bit to go on the cover with our title.
I have that
With all
map
the
framed in
zoning-
my house.
with
Do
all-
you?
Too, yes.
Awesome.
With all the zoning articles, that's
I think
perfect.
it's appropriate, it's
It's cool looking.
It's our thing.
it's a very cool map. So, I think that's gonna be the plan, and, I did, in talking with, town administrators today, he said actually with the length of report and probably number of reports that we need to print, we can do it in-house. I think we will probably be charged for the paper at least, and maybe some toner, but it will still be a whole lot less than any other way of doing it. And Matt and I are gonna meet Monday morning at 9 AM, so everybody needs to get their stuff into me. I would say, please, by the end of the day on Friday, so that I can spend the weekend finalizing everything, but I will tell you what I already have and what I still need.
I know you need from me.
You know, yes. So, and
Yes.
everyone who's given me anything so far has made it blessedly brief, and I do it like 2 or 3 sentences. Unless it really requires, maybe the sewer article requires a little more explanation than that, maybe one or two of the zoning articles as well, but if you can say it in a few words, please do. So what I have already gotten from Dom is 6, 7, and 8. Matt has already given me 9, let's see,
9, 10, 11.
9, 10, and 11. Jody, before he left for Ireland, got in his 3, which were 29, 30, and 31. Thank you. So that leaves me to do several of them. Julie to do the zoning. And I've got you, Heidi, down for 28, Candle Paper Lane.
Yeah, I didn't do it,
Well,
only because
We hadn't done it yet. Right, and then I also have you for.
12, I
the-
think it is, I've done, I
12,
can send that to
affordable,
you
affordable
tonight.
housing. So if you can just get those 2 to me, I've got a master document started and we will get it all done.
All right.
All right, any other questions or comments about the report?
No.
I am planning to have enough copies run right away to get one posted down on the bulletin board downstairs, a few copies in the select board office. I'm gonna take a few to the Spinney Library, which is our only library at the moment. And then we will get the rest of them copied well in advance of the meeting itself. All right?
Yes.
Are you going to include the 5-year capital plan in, you think, or?
I'm on the fence about that. Would you like that included? I'm not sure how helpful it is if we don't.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we met about 10 times to do it, but,
I know, So, but it will be posted on the website, right?
yeah, tomorrow, it should be by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay.
It's probably a good idea, if we can get it down to a few enough pages and we're not really running over, I think it's probably a good idea to do.
Yeah, I think it gives, no one will go to the website, Kevin, okay?
I will.
Other than
us.
A few people will, but you're right, most people will not.
It may be a good idea to throw out those figures.
Okay. I will probably condense it down into a little bit easier to read format.
Yeah.
If I can. I'm not too bad at Excel. All right. Well, in that case, our next meeting that I have listed is October 23rd at 6:30 before the town meeting starts.
So no meeting till town meeting.
Does anybody
Right,
want to meet?
right at the
Anybody
moment.
want to meet next week?
It's not necessary, no.
All right. Oh, and back on the town meeting report, by the time we go to print, we will not have all the select board votes, but we have a plan to create like a 1-page list of the votes that are left blank in our copy. So that's the best we can do. So yes, October 23rd at 6:30, unless somebody's dying to meet next week. I didn't think so. I think everyone has done really excellent work, and I appreciate how well this committee works
I
together.
wanted to see that.
So, thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you.
What do you want?
And
Board, can you just, information from the boards, I do have something I'd like to say.
oh, I did not put liaison reports on here.
Oh, there is, okay.
No.
Guess
So
we
then-
can do it under unanticipated?
Other
It's just a
business.
number, it's just,
Go for it.
we should expect to have probably another 200,000 to 300,000 for upper tech. We have 26 more kids from Wareham going.
Okay.
So that's just something that I told Derek and the 4J, so it's just gonna be, an expense that we needed to know about, that's all I got to.
But that won't be until April town meeting, and we're gonna hear,
It's-
I know we'll
actually,
hear,
It's really good information
Yeah.
going into
It is.
this budget season.
We need,
It is.
budget, that's why I said.
Yeah, and
Okay, it's really
Which
good.
puts us again at the top, right? Tom, we're the most of
Yeah,
any
oh,
town.
definitely,
We already were,
Way
yeah.
above, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Wow.
It was, even for the new kids that came in, we were more
Above
than,
anyway, yeah,
yeah.
wow.
But that also means that the 26 kids going into Upper Cape are not going into Wareham High, which means the cost comes down.
comes down,
Correct.
but you won't
but they're not
That's-
dollar for
see a
dollar.
savings in Wareham High though.
Well, we'll see. Let's not get into the
No,
merits of
no, we're not
anybody
gonna get into
else's
the-
We
budget.
have a meeting
For
coming
another
up, but
day.
we can talk about that.
For another
That's
day.
next month.
Yep, but
So-
that's something to keep.
So, and yes, just on down the line, I mentioned it last time, we do have the November 7th budget workshop for the schools, if you care, and you have time, please show up. All right,
And the annual meeting? if anyone cares to join us.
And for, I'm sorry, annual meeting, oh, yes,
Municipal
yeah,
Association.
the
Finance,
Association of Town Finance
Finance
Committees,
Committees.
yes, if anybody hasn't already signed up and still is interested in going, and if you need the link again, let me know.
Yeah, please send me that link
I
again,
will.
because I can't find it.
Okay, all right, I'll take,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? It passes 6-0-0. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
I just see a
How many
little
more
few
did
comments.
I got myself, I got my